Hey everybody, what's going on? Hexlex here. I've got another Master Duel video for you all. So today we're coming back to Mathmech. Now, I was just going to do like regular old Mathmech because it had been a while since I played the deck and I figured I'd try it out to see how rough it actually is out here in the bestial, so to speak, meta. But I ultimately decided not to play a regular Mathmech deck when I had this option available. Last time we featured this particular deck, for those who aren't familiar with this variant of Mathmech, so to speak, it was first featured, or at least I saw it. I don't know if it premiered here or not, but at the 250th YCS, I believe it was, in London earlier this year. This deck didn't top, but it had a very impressive feature match, and, you know, I saw a deck profile on Lithium 2300's channel, and I was immediately intrigued. Of course, you all know by this point how much I love pile decks, so seeing a seemingly random assortment of cards that can spit out an insane turn 1 combo, or turn 2 combos too, actually, for that matter, definitely appealed to me. So, last season, we brought the deck, or it might have even been the one before, I don't recall off the top of my head, but whenever the Sargas came out, which allowed us to finish the deck here, I brought it into Master Duel, trimmed it down from 60 to 50 in converting it from a TCG list to a Master Duel list, and now for this season I've actually managed to get it down to 40 cards. So a lot of what I cut out was stuff like Therion and the Phantom Rites of Shade Brigandine, these free level 4 monsters that we would special summon in an attempt to, you know, make our combo a little bit more consistent. The full combo, that is, so to speak. Now, the combo as far as like a Mathmech line can actually be achieved in this particular variant with only one card. That one card being the Formud Skipper, of course, as it is in the title of the deck. This card is quite important to how it functions. Now, in the games that I have coming up, I actually don't think I get like a clean turn 1 combo line, so I'm going to go ahead and hop into solo mode and I will show you that turn 1 combo line. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and list out all the cards here real quick, so that way, you know, we all know what's going on here with the deck, and you know all these cards, because there are a lot of unusual choices here. So, we're playing 1 PSY Frame Driver, 3 Formud Skipper, 3 Maxx, 2 PSY Framegear Gamma, 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 1 Scareclaw Acro, 1 Mathmech Sigma, 1 Mathmech Nabla, 2 Mathmech Diameter, 1 Springans Brothers, 3 Scareclaw Reich-Heart, 3 Mathmech Circular, 3 Parallel Exceed, 1 Therion King Regulus, 1 Reinforcement of the Army, 1 1-for-1, 3 Cynet Mining, 1 Mathmech Equation, 1 Pot of Prosperity, 1 Scareclaw Arrival, 1 Primitive Planet Reichphobia, 2 Call by the Grave, 1 Mathmech Superfactorial. That's in our main deck. For the extra deck, we're on 1 PSY Framelord Omega, 1 Primathmech Laplacian, 2 Primathmech Alembertain, 1 Springans Merrymaker, 1 Gigantic Champion Sargas, 1 Salamangreat Almiraj, 1 Scareclaw Light-Heart, 1 Cyberse Wicckid, 1 Update Jammer, 1 PSY Framelord Lambda, 1 Splash Mage, 1 Transcode Talker, 1 Decode Talker Heat Soul, and then an Accesscode Talker. So there's our list, and again, instead of just talking about the deck more on the screen here, I'm just going to show you what the combo you can pull off in solo mode, and then we'll take a look at our duels here. Okay, so for the combo here, I was just looking to open the Formud Skipper and Scareclaw Reich-Heart. Now, if you're just interested in making standard Mathmech plays, with actually still a little bit of a bonus on top, all you need to open is the Formud Skipper. Formud Skipper by itself will not only allow you to set up the Superfactorial for the Laplacian for 3, including Diameter, it will also still net you the ability to rip a card out of your opponent's hand with PSY Framelord Omega, and also search Gamma off of Lambda in the process for an extra negation. However, if you open the Scareclaw Reich-Heart, or access to it via like Rhoda or something like that, in addition to Formud Skipper, then you get to throw in a Gigantic Champion Sargas that will also grab you a live Regulus. So I'll go ahead and show you the full combo here, and I'll point out where we have the additional line with Reich-Heart, as opposed to just the 1-card combo with Skippers. So we're going to start in either case by normal summoning the Formud Skipper. You want to activate Formud Skipper's effect and reveal the Scareclaw Light-Heart in the process of doing so. Now we're going to go ahead and special summon that same Light-Heart that we just revealed by sending the Formud Skipper. Go ahead and throw the Light-Heart there. Let's activate both effects, and let's do Skipper as Chainlink 1. In case our opponent does have an Ash Blossom, we would much rather search the Parallel Exceed than the Primitive Planet Reichphobia. It actually is going to depend, honestly, what the rest of your hand looks like, but typically you want to grab the Parallel Exceed a little bit more. Alright, now let's activate Reichphobia. Here, if you didn't have Reich-Heart in hand, I would definitely grab Reich-Heart here. But for our purposes, when you open Reich-Heart, then you actually want to be grabbing your Acro. So we're going to search Acro. But again, if you didn't already open Reich-Heart, you would want to search Reich-Heart off of the primitive planet. So let's go ahead and special summon that Acro, and then I'll go ahead and throw a Reich-Heart over into the zone next to it. This effect is going to activate, and it will allow us to search the Scareclaw Arrival. Now here, I'm just showing you the combo as if we only opened Formud Skipper and Reich-Heart. In this case, and we'll see an example of this in the games coming up, but we opened a Circular, and if you do that in addition to this line, you can actually special the Circular before the Reich-Heart, and then you'll get an extra draw off of this effect because you'll have 3 monsters in defense mode. Of course, assuming you summon the Circular and everything else in defense mode. But again, we're not going to worry about that for now. So again, continuing with our main combo line, we're now going to want to summon Lambda using exactly Acro and Light-Heart. We'll throw Lambda down right over here. This will trigger the Parallel Exceed in our hand. We'll go ahead and summon the Exceed into this zone and summon another copy at level 4. Alright, now here we want to make the Alembertain using exactly Reich-Heart and either the Parallel Exceeds. It doesn't matter which one, but I usually like to free up the zone that Lambda's pointing to just in case it ends up being relevant, but you do want to make sure that you're using Reich-Heart as one of them, because we're going to go ahead and detach that Reich-Heart along with the Parallel Exceed right now for the Alembertain effect. So Alembertain is going to grab a Circular. Again, we already opened Circular, but we're just going to pretend we didn't and grab a Circular here. Alright, now we're going to activate our Circular's effect and send the Nabla. You want to send Nabla and not Sigma. That might seem a little bit weird because usually we do send Sigma. Oh, and of course, let's go ahead and throw in our Regulus and Merrymaker and Gigantic first. So activating the Arrival, getting back the Reich-Heart, we'll throw that in defense mode. Now we can overlay Reich-Heart and our remaining Parallel Exceed for Springans Brothers, or sorry, Merrymaker. Merrymaker is going to activate and send the Brothers from our deck to the graveyard. Alright, now we can throw the Gigantic Champion Sargas on top of the Merrymaker. We'll just do that right over here. Alright, let's activate Sargas' effect. That will allow us to grab the Therion King Regulus from our deck, which we can then activate to summon, equipping that Brothers that we just sent from our deck to the graveyard. So the Springans Brothers does end up being the one kind of Garnet you have to play. Scareclaw Arrival is actually a Garnet sometimes too, but definitely is worth it to get this full board online. But we're definitely not done yet. Alembertain is going to activate sacrificing itself in order to bring back the Nabla that's in our graveyard. We then get to activate our Circular effect. We are, of course, going to add our Superfactorial. We then want to activate Nabla, sacrificing itself in order to pull a Diameter out of our deck. And we can now Synchro Summon Omega using Diameter and Circular, because even though we've been doing Mathmech stuff, we actually haven't done any effect that locks us into only summoning Cyberse. Alright, so we can activate the Omega effect that allows us to rip a card out of our opponent's hand. It will also activate Lambda's effect. So now during the end phase we can search for Gamma. We'll set the Superfactorial, move to end phase, resolve the Lambda, add the Gamma, and boom, there you go. So that seems pretty simple. I mean, I don't know if it's simple, but it's honestly a lot easier than it looks. Like, once you get this combo line down, you'll know how to make pretty much any play in this deck. And yeah, as you can see, that has set up a lot of things here for only 2 cards. We still have the remaining 3 that we didn't use in our hand. That set up the Gamma in our hand with the Lambda on board to activate the Gamma. We also have the Superfactorial with 3 Mathmech monsters in graveyard, including the Diameter. And again, because we opened Scareclaw Reich-Heart with this hand, we also have Regulus with its ability to act as an Omni-Negate. We can also use Gigantic Champion Sargas. So when we detach an Exceeds material, we then get to destroy or bounce an extra card on the field. So make sure you're keeping that in mind for when you want to resolve the Superfactorial and then, of course, the Laplacian effect as well. But that's the main combo line. Now that we've established that, let's take a look at some gameplay so we can see this deck in action. Alright, our first opponent is going to be on Cyber Dragon. So we are going to be taking the first turn here, of course, because we're up against Cyber Dragon. And you might have seen that combo line and thought to yourself, well, okay, what if we don't open this Formud Skipper or Reich-Heart? I'll go ahead and show you. This hand might look really dead, but it's actually got a ton of plays here. So I'm going to start by normal summoning the Maxx. I'm going to summon Maxx and not Ash Blossom, just in case my opponent does end up having a Maxx of their own. I'm going to link that into Almiraj and allow me to special summon this Parallelic Seed that's in my hand and grab another from deck. We have 2 level 4 monsters, which means we can grab our Alembertain, which means we have plays. So Alembertain is going to come down, activate the effect, detach both Parallelic Seeds in order to grab, of course, Mathmech Circular. Let's go ahead and use Circular, send the Nabla to special itself. Alembertain effect will sacrifice itself in order to bring back the Nabla. This will trigger the Circular to grab ourselves a Mathmech Superfactorial. Now I'm going to activate Equation that I opened with and grab the Alembertain back out of my graveyard. Nabla is going to go ahead and sacrifice itself for Diameter, but before I sync for Omega, I'm first going to link the Almiraj and Alembertain for Lambda. Now I can sync for the Omega, rip a card out of my opponent's hand, and add the Gamma. So that hand looks really dead, but we actually still did pretty much our main combo line. Well, not even pretty much, we did our main combo line with it. We just had the body and the ability to summon Parallelic Seed. So now we have the Superfact set up, we have the Gamma, we even have an Ash Blossom in hand as well. Opponent's going to special Cyber Dragon, and honestly, I should have just flipped up the Superfactorial as soon as Cyber Dragon was summoned. I wasn't even thinking about Mega Fleet, because it's actually been a minute since I've played against Cyber Dragons, but opponent is going to drop a Mega Fleet. That's not that big of a deal, though, because like we definitely still have like most of our, plays here. As they go to battle, I'll flip up the Superfactorial. I honestly probably should have just taken the 2400, full disclosure, because, I could have waited for my opponent to try to activate a monster effect in main phase 2, and then I could have Gammaed since my board was still clear. But, I mean, here with the Laplacian, I'll get rid of the Mega Fleet and a card in my opponent's hand and still have a negate up. So I'm like, yeah, it should be fine. Opponent's going to try to Lightning Storm. I'll just use Laplacian's negate because it only lasts for the turn anyway, so it's like, might as well save our Laplacian here. Opponent's going to normal summon a Cyber Dragon Core, but thankfully I also had the Ash Blossom in hand. But had I not misplayed, I would have had access to Gamma here to stop the Core anyway. So, I ended up getting a little bit lucky in having the Ash Blossom, but again, had I played correctly, the luck wouldn't have mattered. But also at the same time, it's like my opponent had the core and one other card in hand. I don't know much about Cyber Dragons, but I don't know that there's a lot my opponent could have done with just those. But who knows? Maybe they could have. In any case, though, we definitely end up taking that duel after, again, what looked like a pretty dead opening hand. But as long as you have the Almiraj target and the Parallelic Seed, that's really all you need to make plays. So we are going to go ahead and go straight into our next game here. Okay, for this one, we're going to find ourselves going up against Sword Soul. Now, one of the really cool things about this deck, of course, is that, well, it's a Mathmech deck, even though it's doing a lot of fancy stuff. So, if we get to go second, it's not that big of a deal that we don't get to do our fancy turn 1 combo, because we get to just do an Update Jammer Accesscode OTK instead. So we're going to fire off the Maxx during our opponent's draw phase. They have an Ash Blossom for it, but unfortunately for them, we opened up our Gamma. That's the other cool thing, too, about this deck, and why it's actually fine to go second with it, as opposed to a lot of combo decks like it, is that we run Gamma as part of our combo engine, but it's also, of course, still great to open Gamma going second. So opponent's just going to set one card and then pass. Did not want to play under Maxx. Got a 1-for-1 for a Formud Skipper here, revealing the Light-Heart, and then I'm going to link it off in order to go for the Light-Heart. So starting off the same way as if I were doing a turn 1 combo, but we're going to end up pivoting into the Update Jammer Accesscode. There's a couple of different points at which you can do this. I'm going to do it at the first point here, but we'll talk about that a little more in a second. So, adding Reichphobia, adding Parallelic Seed, Reichphobia is getting activated to add the Reich-Heart, which I'm going to special into Light-Heart's zone, grab myself an Arrival, link off the 2 into PSY Framelord Lambda. That is the only target for linking these two, so that is something to keep in mind. Especially in the Parallelic Seed, in order to grab another copy here. Now, I could overlay for Alembertain and grab Circular, which I think technically might have been the right play, but it also kind of loses the Ash Blossom, which I don't think my opponent had, but I was like, whatever, I'll just go for the Update Jammer. So like I said before, there are a couple of different ways you could do that. You could just go for Update Jammer like I did. That's definitely the more direct line. The more, a little bit risky, but will ultimately net you more advantage line is to, again, overlay those parallel exceeds for an Alembertain to grab Circular. I also had the Equation in hand, so it might have been fine to do that, like it might have been less risky, but again, even though I didn't think my opponent had it, I just didn't want to get wrecked by Ash Blossom randomly, so, or I guess Imperm, but I guess, you know, Imperm, they could have wrecked the access code either way, so, in any case, that is a good example of what a going second duel looks like. So we do still, of course, have a couple more games to show off. Let's go straight into the next one here. All right, this game here is going to be up against Sprite. Good old Sprite. Looks like my opponent was filling in some of the cards that got hit with Evil Hero Malicious Edge, which I kind of thought about playing. Or not Malicious Edge. Oh, it's the level 2. Of course, it's the level 2 one. I'm talking about Sprites, but it's the level 2 one that can summon itself from hand. So I'm going to draw phase Maxx. Opponent does not have a response. We're just simply going to set a monster before passing. This hand is a little bit awkward like the first one, but again, we have the ability to go into Almiraj, and we have the Parallel Exceed, so we should still definitely have plays here. Going to normal summon the Ash Blossom, bake the Almiraj, special Parallel Exceed, grab another copy from deck. It does suck that we open 2 brick cards here, the Extra Exceed and the Scareclaw Arrival. Like I mentioned, the deck profile can actually be a bit of a garnet sometimes, so a little bit unfortunate, but it just comes with the territory of playing a deck like this. So I'm going to use Circular, and I actually am going to send a Sigma this time. I'm planning on sending it back after using Alembertain to sack off the Almiraj, but unfortunately for me, my opponent has a Baldrake to grab that Sigma out of the graveyard and toss it into the Banish Zone, so that's definitely really annoying. That is, you know, like I kind of alluded to, actually I think that was a previous take, but at some point while recording, I alluded to the fact that, you know, as much as I like Mathmech, it can be a little bit rough to play them in this meta because, of course, Bestial monsters and not just Sigma, but Circular and a lot of the Mathmechs are light, but I don't think that completely kills the deck by any means. So we can still make an access code, it'll even be 5300 attack, but unfortunately, we didn't have a way to make the update jammer here, so it cannot attack twice. It can still attack once, and I'm definitely going to do that, smack my opponent for 53. Before setting both cards and then passing back over to them. Excuse me. So opponent's going to normal summon a Nimble Beaver and then go for the Angler. Here I was really hopeful they were going to go for Sprint because I have the Call By set, but they're not. They're actually going to go for Gigantic, which is a bit more of a problem. Actually, if they had gone for Sprint or Elf, I could have completely stopped their combo with the Call By here. It turns out they actually had the other Nimble Angler in hand, which just makes a little bit more sense why they Gigantics for a swap. It's actually really unfortunate because, like, I was thinking about this mid-game too. If they hadn't opened the Angler, they probably would have just gone Sprint for Angler, which would have been a lot better for me. So I actually got a little bit unlucky that they opened Angler because they end up going into Gigantic, which again is kind of the one line that Call By doesn't just completely wreck here. The Call By does still, of course, stop them from getting a couple of bodies on board, but it's not going to be enough, especially as they sprint just in the blue. I can tell what's coming here. They're going to Elf for the blue, blue for Jet, then they can Jet for the double Gamma Burst, and although that does not allow them to battle over the Accesscode Talker, what they can do is they can still use the blue and Jet in order to make a monster that can remove my Accesscode Talker. In this case, I believe it's going to be the Onibimaru Soul Sweeper, which is a very underrated card in the Sprite Extra deck. It's very good for situations like this where you just need to clear something off the board in order to push for lethal. So this one was close. This game was really close. If my opponent's hand, I mean, you could always say if my opponent's hand had been a little bit different, but it really would have only taken slight variations, even ones typically in my opponent's favor. It was them not only having the Baldrake to hit the Sigma on my turn, but then also opening the Nimble Angler, put them in a situation where they made Gigantic instead of Elf or Sprint, where the Call By would have absolutely wrecked Elf or Sprint, but not Gigantic. So there's a lot of worlds where that duel is winnable, but unfortunately we did not live in that universe. We do still have one more game though, so let's go ahead and take a look at it here. And for our final game, we're going to be up against a Marine Sis. I think my opponent is a TCG player because they're playing 3 Nibiru in their main deck. 3 of them. Wow. That's definitely not normal, so to say. But I suppose more power to them. Now here we're going to go first, and as you can see, we opened the Formud Skipper plus the Reich-Heart. I'm actually still going to start off with a Cynet Mining for the Circular, pitching the extra Reich-Heart. That was mostly me baiting to see if my opponent would Ash Blossom it, but they didn't, so we'll just go ahead and start with the combo line here. It actually does do a little bit more than that. As I touched on during the combo guide portion, this will also allow me to special Circular before Reich-Heart, which will give me an extra card draw off of Reich-Heart's effect. So, adding the Reichphobia and the Parallel Exceed, Reichphobia is going to grab the Acro, specialing Acro, and then again, before the Reich-Heart, we're going to special the Circular, sending the Nabla from deck to graveyard. So now we search the Arrival with Reich-Heart, and we get an extra draw, which happens to be Sigma here. So, looking off the Acro and the Light-Heart in order to go for a PSY Framelord Lambda, we then get to special the Parallel Exceed, going to, of course, change it to 4, and then grab another copy from deck. Remember, you do want to overlay using Reich-Heart when you go for Alembertain here. That way you can bring the Reich-Heart back with the Arrival a little bit later. So, because we already have Circular on the field, we get to actually kind of do a little bit of chain blocking here. And because we already have access to the Circular, we don't need to search it with Alembertain. So I'll grab an Equation here in case I need an extender. It's funny, I was actually a little bit worried about my opponent having Nibiru, and despite the fact that they played 3, they actually didn't open one. So I got really lucky here, honestly. Things could have gone a lot worse this game. Merrymaker is going to, of course, send Brothers. We already opened with Regulus, so we don't need to overlay for Sargas, but there's also literally no reason not to, so I'll go ahead and do that here. And if we hadn't opened Regulus, we could just search it with Sargas right now. So, Alembertain is going to sack itself for the Nabla. Nabla effect is going to sack itself now for the Diameter, sinking the Diameter and the Circular. The Nabla is also a tutor, but you want to sack it for the Diameter so that way you're getting 3 Mathmech monsters in graveyard, and one of them is Diameter for the Omni Negate. So, Omega is going to reveal that our opponent is on Marensis, grabbing the Sleepy Maiden here. And then, of course, the Lambda is going to grab the Gamma out of the deck. So my opponent's moving to battle phase. It's pretty obvious they have an Evenly here. I'm going to Superfactorial for a couple of reasons. Of course, I could happen to snipe the Evenly out of their hand. That would be really, really good. But Evenly is not once per turn, and on the off chance my opponent has 2 Evenlys, I want to be able to counter both of them with Regulus and Laplacian. Opponent's going to try to imperm the Laplacian. I'll just chain its own effect here. This will not only, of course, negate the imperm, but then, of course, in turn by doing so, allow me to rip a card out of my opponent's hand, which is going to be the Marensis Seahorse. So I do have the Evenly. I'll have to use my Regulus to counter it because I've already used Laplacian's negate. This also had the unfortunate drawback of not allowing me to use Sargas on one of their cards here. Opponent's going to summon and activate Blue Tang. I'm going to use the PSY Framegear Gamma because they've used their normal summon now. And at this point, they're out of disruption, but unfortunately, I'm out of disruption, but they're not out of plays. They do have the Spring Girl. They can special her in order to go for the Marensis Blue Slug here. I did kind of debate on waiting to negate Blue Slug or the Sea Angel, potentially, with the Gamma. But I thought to myself, you know, they only have 1 card left. What are the odds that it's actually going to be something live? Not only was it something live, but it actually managed to dodge both of my hand rips, which is pretty impressive. So the opponent is still going to get to make some amount of plays here, but I don't know a lot about Marensis, but I know enough to know that, like, what they currently have going on, I don't think is enough for them to end on anything, like, you know, super great. They also didn't use Splash Mage's effect. Maybe they couldn't for some reason, but that seems a little bit odd to me. They're summoning the Coral Anemone, which is funny. I always, looking at this card's art, looks like she has like sunny side up eggs on her head. I just always thought that. But they get to summon the World Sea Dragon Zealantis. It's actually the first time I've ever had this card dropped on me. And it's a doozy. It's going to end up banishing the whole board here. So that's definitely a bit of a yikes. Now, it does have a quick effect as well, but that doesn't activate until the battle phase, so I'm not worried about that. They also have to have co-linked cards, so again, not really concerned about that. Alright, Omega's going to come back, and I am left over with cards in my hand, more than enough cards in my hand to very easily summon a Update Jammer access code here. So we're just going to go ahead and do that. Pretty simply, not do anything too fancy. I know the 2 cards in my opponent's hand, they're both Marensis monsters, so Nothing to be afraid of as far as like disruption or anything. Again, very lucky my opponent did not open any of their 3 Nibiru against me. Alright, Accesscode Talker will, and of course Update Jammer will activate. Chain blocking with the access code because it cannot be responded to. Access code F in order to banish the Light-Heart to pop the Zealantis, and we just move to battle phase and smack our opponent a couple of times for lethal here. So that's going to go ahead and do it. I hope you all enjoyed this variant of Mathmech. Again, I decided to play this over pure Mathmech, not just for fun, but especially after playing with the deck now, I feel that this variant is like just about as good as regular Mathmech. It does not have as great of options when it bricks, but at the same time, again, all you need to open for a line is Formud Skipper, or sometimes, again, as we saw, even if you don't open Formud Skipper, you do still definitely have plays. So I don't think it's much less consistent as far as the floor goes, and it definitely has a much higher ceiling. Again, you do have to play a couple of bricky cards like the Springans Brothers and sometimes Scareclaw Arrival, but I think it's worth it overall. So that's going to go ahead and do it. Definitely let me know what you think of this deck in the comments below. Let's just go ahead and move now to our outro. Alright everybody, thank you so much for watching all the way to the very end of the video like this. That means a whole lot to me. Not just personally, but it's also a great way of supporting the channel as well. If you're interested in supporting the channel in other means, you can of course feel free to comment and or subscribe right here on YouTube. I'm always looking to the comments section. You guys leave some pretty awesome feedback as far as like constructive criticism goes when it comes to deck building, gameplay, channel content, all that stuff. So feel free to leave your opinion down there. I will be sure to take a look at that there. And then subscribing is going to be the best way to get notifications of when these videos drop. That does happen every day, by the way, so if you're looking for daily Master Duel content, you've come to the right place. And there are more places where you can get some daily Master Duel content. If you check out the description below, follow the top link over to my Patreon page. There for just $5 a month, which is as much as you pay for a booster pack. You'll find a lot more value than a pack full of filler over there. We've got some previews for content upcoming here on the channel. We've got some exclusive games that are only posted over on Patreon over there. We've got some Q&As, and then you can also have your name featured in this lovely credit sequence where I thank all of the people who are helping contribute over there on Patreon. It's a huge support to the channel, and it really means a lot as well. So thank you everyone who is donating that is featured here on screen. And again, you know, it's not just a pure donation, you do get some more daily Master Duel content over there just for being a part of the Patreon. But I think that's about all the time that I have for today's video. Once again, I just want to thank you so very much for sticking all the way to the end of the video. Again, it just means a lot as I do put a decent amount of work into getting these videos out every single day. But that's about all the time that I've got for now. So without further ado, this is XLex. I'm signing out, and I hope you have a fantastic day.